to the Beauty Basics. In this series, I'm gonna break down each step and I'm gonna show you guys how you guys can achieve this face. So stay tuned for the step of today. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are getting into like the funnest part of this entire Back to the Beauty Basics, and that is our eyeshadow. I'm gonna be giving you guys all the details and all the tools and all the information that you will need, from the brushes that you should be using to the technique that you're going to be using to the placement of your eyeshadows. We're really about to get into it. We're gonna talk about our eyes. We all have different type of eye shapes. We have different type of eye sizes. We have different type of lids, different type of eye colors. So everything that I'm going to say today is going to try to be as general as possible. One of the things that I do want to say is that I do have a lot of lid space that I personally have to work with. Now, some people might have hooded eyes, some people might have droopy eyes, some people might have even bigger eyes than I have. But the one thing that I really want you guys to take away from today is the placement, the tools, and the blending. I'm not going to be speaking in regards to, oh, if you have hooded eyes, this is how you should be applying your makeup, or if you have bigger eyes, this is how you should be applying your makeup. I'm just trying to give you guys the basics so that way you can go ahead and further research what products or what methods might be best for that specifically. All of our eyes have this standard shape. Whether it be a big crease and lots of space outside of that or smaller space, we all have a crease right here. This is where your eyeball and your eyelid are actually kind of meeting. And you can even kind of feel the top of your eyeball like right there in that socket. Now the front half of your eye right here is the inner tear duct. So this is the little fold area where your eyelid and your actual nose kind of meet. Remember when we were doing our brows, we placed our pinky here to show us where we were not going to fill in our eyebrows? Well, now we're just going to kind of bring our finger down. Now this right here is your inner eyelid. If we go ahead and we just move our pinky right here to the middle of our eye, like right over our pupil, this is the middle lid. And this right here is the actual eyelid part. So crease, inner, middle. Now this is your outer eyelid. Of course, you know, some of you guys might already know this, but I just want to make sure that we know this so that way when we're placing products and I'm saying inner lid, middle, outer lid, we know exactly where to go. And you also have this little area right here where the bone of your face and your eyelid somewhat meet. That is the outer V, and that is typically where your wing would go in your eyeliner. The inner tear duct, inner eyelid, the middle eyelid, and the outer lid. And then you have your outer V. This here right underneath your eyebrow is your brow bone. Remember in our brow tutorial when we were placing our concealer? That is where that concealer went, on our brow bone. On the bottom half of your eye, you have your lower lash line. So that is where your lashes are literally coming out of your eye, the lower lash line. And you see that space right on top of your lashes? It's just like a flat kind of space there. And it's not necessarily where your lower lashes are coming out of. That is your lower waterline. So when your eyes get watery, that's where your tears are gonna start filling up in that lower waterline. I hope I kind of made that a little bit clearer so that way in the future, when you watch either my videos or anybody else's videos, you'll know exactly where they're placing it. So that is everything you need to know about the eye and the placement. So let's go ahead and talk about our brushes. So for your eyeshadow, you definitely want to make sure that you're using the right brushes in the right areas, because that will really have a big effect on how the overall look turns out. For example, these three brushes right here are all fluffy brushes. Now, this one in particular is a MAC 224 brush. This is probably my favorite fluffy brush to use because this one covers a really big space. Now, as I stated, I have pretty big eyelids, so this brush for me is ideal for adding my transition colors, for blending out my crease. But let's say you don't have such big eyes like I do and you have a smaller space that you're working with, you would absolutely use a tapered brush. Now, a tapered brush is somewhat similar to this fluffy brush here. However, it is a little bit more focused at the ends. So this brush would have more of a pointed fluffiness to it, whereas this one here is just completely fluffy, meaning that this one is not directly focusing on a specific area, whereas this one would. This one is going to be perfect for placing your color in your crease or laying down your transition color, because you're going to be able to directly get into that one specific area. So after placing your color inside of your crease, you can absolutely use a fluffy brush to blend it out. However, I personally just use a fluffy brush because, like I said, I have a little bit more space to work with. There are also crease brushes that you can use, and these brushes can also be labeled as a shader brush. It's not fluffy like this one. So when you're placing a product with this one, it's going to be directly targeted in a specific area, whereas this one here is going to somewhat fan out everywhere. So if you're working in your crease, you don't want that color to transfer onto your lower lid or, you know, above your crease. This is going to target it right there in that area. This can also be a tool for blending out the product, but ideally this is going to be the one that's going to pack it on and really develop that color. So the next brush that you'll need is a lid brush, and that would be one of these brushes here. And this brush is a little bit more rounded. It is very flat, and this one is ideal for packing shades onto your eyelids. Now this brush is a little bit skinnier than your crease / shader brush, but that is because this brush is directly focusing on the lid. Another brush that is ideal for helping create a makeup look is the pencil brush. So the pencil brush is more so used for the lower lash line and blending out your colors underneath your eyes. And these can also be utilized as a detail brush. However, one of the best areas to use this besides the lower lash line is in that inner tear duct. One of the last brushes that you should definitely know is the angled liner brush. And these brushes, as you can see, all have a slant to them because these are more so ideal for working in that outer V, creating that wing and working that eyeliner all the way close to the upper lash line and into the inner tear duct. So you can absolutely use these brushes for other things as well. But if you do decide to use a gel liner and anything that you have to dip into, you would use this brush because it just gets really, really close and it's super, super thin. So now that you know your brushes and the areas of the eyes, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start our eyeshadow. So before we go ahead and start our makeup look, I do wanna go ahead and make sure I protect the rest of my base because I don't want any fallout from our eyeshadows to catch onto our foundation and then ruin our entire makeup look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take some of my Laura Mercier setting powder. I'm gonna put a pretty decent layer of powder underneath my eyes, and this is going to be to catch any fallout that we might have as we're doing this makeup look. I put way too much powder on this side and on my nose, but that's okay. Please don't put this much powder. And a beginner tip to making sure that your eyeshadow doesn't get too crazily outside of the lines is to use tape. So today I'm gonna be doing the tape method with you guys. We're gonna take 2 pieces of Scotch tape and we are going to go ahead and line this up with our outer V. And this is not only going to help us with making sure that we don't have any eyeshadow outside of the lines, but this is also going to help us when we're creating our wing to ensure that it's actually going to be the same wing. Now, when we were doing our concealer and contour, I did mention if you don't have a eyeshadow base and you were going to be using your concealer to prime your eyelids, that would have been the perfect time to apply the concealer to your eyelids, as well as setting it with your loose powder. However, I was not doing that step, as I mentioned, so I'm going to be using my P. Louise eye base. And this one is in the shade Rumor 1. A little bit goes a long way. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna take a brush and I am going to pack this onto my eyelid. This is a Real Techniques brush and I just use this to pack that primer on. Depending on your eyelids, again, you can go really high or you would make sure you don't go too high because you don't want it to be all in your brow bone. This tape is going to catch anything that goes outside of those lines, so you can absolutely go ahead and get on the line, but when we pull it off, everything is just going to be nice and crisp. You don't have to use an eye base. Again, like I said, you can absolutely use a concealer. However, I find that when you are using colors and when you want those colors to really come off true to color, using an eye base, one that is preferably white, helps with those colors and makes them stand out a little bit more. So for today, the eyeshadow palette that I'm going to be using is the One Size Beauty eyeshadow palette. And the reason that I'm using this one is because it has more of neutral shade colors in here. And so today's look is going to be a soft, smoky, neutral eye. And I just felt like these colors that we're going to be using are colors that hopefully everybody has. If you guys don't have a neutral palette like this, I'm hoping you at least have 2 to 3 of the shades that we're going to be using today. And if you do have all of these shades, then that's going to be perfect. But if not, definitely use what you have and try to just match these colors. So to start off our look, we're going to go ahead and lay our transition color. Now, our transition color is not going to be any darker than any of the shades that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use Manila Sands as our transition color. I know it looks really light. It's actually kind of white. But this is just to lay something on top of our P. Louise eye base, so that way when we start adding our eyeshadows, everything can just blend together with the other powders and isn't really fighting to blend with the stickiness of the eye base. And I'm taking a fluffy brush. Now remember, I said if you don't have a big eyelids like I do, you're going to be using your tapered brush to place this all over your eyelid. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the shade Suede Charm, and this is going to go in our crease. So if you don't have big eyelids, yet again, do not use a fluffy brush, use a tapered brush. Remember our crease, we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this color right there, and we're just going to work it back and forth, back and forth. So essentially, that first shade that we put down should get completely covered by your crease color. And just really focus that in on that crease. You're just building it up and blending it out. Now, if you were using a tapered brush and you don't have a very fluffy tapered brush, then you can definitely go ahead and switch to just a standard fluffy brush and blend out the edges. But make sure you're placing all of that product in the crease first and then blending it out. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're actually going to focus on creating the definition in our crease. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this color Booked. So if you don't have this palette, again, find something that is not necessarily dark brown, but right in between a brown and a red. So since I have a lot of lid space, I'm gonna lay my head back so that way it really shows all the space that I have to work with. And I'm going to take the shader brush and I am going to go ahead in that outer crease right there. I'm going to go ahead and start there, and I'm going to go ahead and just back and forth right there at that particular spot. We're not going to bring it in just yet. We want to bring that definition right there, and we want to build that up. So back and forth, and just slowly work yourself in. And if you have to, dip back in your eyeshadow and go ahead and do the same thing all over. At that outer corner, work it in. Now, the reason that you should have more than one brush is because you will be going back and forth. So you guys know that I started out with this brush and then I went into this brush here. Now I'm going back to this first brush and I'm going to use this to soften out those edges because it still has a little bit of remnants from that first color, which is going to help those gradiate into one another. You still see that there's that line there. Go back into that first color that we used, tap off the extra, and work this right on that line. And as you continue to go back and forth, that will blend that line out. But it will take some time, so just keep at it, be patient, and blend, blend, blend. We're gonna go into that front half. So now we want to just go ahead and just complete the crease. And we're gonna go a little bit on the outer lid, and we're gonna just tap this on there. I'm literally just taking it, putting it down, and tapping it on there. And this is going to have that connect. So I didn't show you guys this brush, however, I showed you the general brushes. This is just a smaller version of this brush here. So this one was our crease brush. This one is a smaller crease brush slash shading brush. Now, in the palette, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take Turban Legend, which is a black shade. I know, black is frightening in eyeshadows, but you have to use it sparingly. You're just gonna tap a little bit on, and again, if you don't have this palette, use a black eyeshadow. This one, true to color, black eyeshadow. And now we're gonna go into that little corner right there on our outer V where we just placed that lower lid color. We're gonna go ahead and in our crease, we're going to tap. Tap that color right there on that outer corner. And then you're going to tap it down where you just brought that darker color as well. Now, after you tap that in there, you're going to, I like to flip my brush. So when I ideally put my eyeshadow on there, it's all on one side. I'm going to flip the brush where it's not really too much product left. And I am going to go back and forth and blend it with that side in particular. And we're stopping at halfway. So the middle of our lid, we're not trying to really get it over that line. And then here, back and forth, back and forth. I'm gonna go in with my first brush that I used to lay that first color. This has not had any other color applied to it, but the first color that we used. And I'm going to blend where this is in our crease. Because you guys see there's a line right there right now of black, that's what we're blending out. You're just gonna keep going back and forth, and that line will blend out and giving us just a little bit more dimension. Now you guys see this side, it just keeps going. This side here, it's stopping at that black, but that black is also still a part of our eyeshadow look. So it's not like a random black color just shows up. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're going to take a lid brush and we're going to pick up a shimmer shade. First, we're gonna take Walnut Strut And I'm gonna just pack this onto my brush. Where the outer lid and the middle meet is where I'm going to place this color. So I'm gonna go ahead on top of my pupil. I'm gonna just swipe this back. Now I'm not gonna go on top of that black color that we placed on the lower lid. I'm gonna stop it there. But this is where I am focusing this specific color, right there in the middle. And depending on the eyeshadow that you're using, the formula of this eyeshadow is really good to the point where I didn't have to spray my eyeshadow in order to get it to pop. But if you feel like your eyeshadow is not popping like this and it's not as bright as you would like it, you can absolutely take any spray that you have and spray your eyeshadow from a distance and then place it on your eyelid. And we're gonna go into title holder. So this one is just a little bit more golden than this bronzer shade down here. Now, if you don't want your eyeshadow to pop and be, you know, super noticeable, I would say to go ahead and place Walnut Strut all over your eyelid. However, I want a little bit more dimension to this look, and I do want it to kind of have a little gradient in it. So that's why I'm taking just a little bit lighter gold, and I'm going to place this on the inner corner. So remember, our pinky right there. I'm just going to, where the two colors meet, I'm going to just kind of tap on top of each other. Now that you have that on, we're going to go back with that first brush that we were using, and we're just going to go ahead and blend our crease just to ensure that there's no harsh lines or any speckles of eyeshadow that got on top. And that brush that we used for the black, I'm not adding any product, but I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of tap on top of where I put that black, just so that way if there's any sparkle that got on there as well, it will be picked up by the brush. If after that step you need to blend again, definitely go ahead and do so. And so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into our eyeliner. Now I like to use the Eyeliner by Kylie Cosmetics because it has a very nice tip to it. It's very precise, but it's also very inky, but not too inky to the point where it runs, because the last thing you want is to do a complete eye look and then put on some eyeliner and it runs and messes up the entire thing. You can use an eyeliner gel, which you do have a little bit more control over, and you would use one of those angled brushes that we talked about earlier. However, I don't have one that I love, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this today. And the really amazing thing is that since we have this tape here, this is going to really help us with creating our wing. So I'm going to hold my tape down because it's kind of lifting a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay my eyeliner down here, and then I'm going to meet the tip of my tape where that's starting. And then I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm going to have that meet, create a triangle like that. Now, the point of your eyeliner, you know, you don't have to worry about that right now. You can always go ahead and kind of heighten that up a little bit more, but this is where we're going to start. And then we're going to go ahead into our actual eyes and get really close to our upper lash line. And we're going to create a nice soft eyeliner. You can do dramatic if you would like, but for the most part, you don't want that part to be too high, because again, if you don't have a lot of lid space, you don't want to cover up all that work that you did by adding eyeliner and it getting too thick. You can always go back and enhance it and make it bigger if you need to. And then I'm going to just fill in that wing and make it all connect. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take off our tape, and now you see that we have everything is just nice and completely symmetrical. Take your beauty blender and go over that line. That tape might have left a little bit of a shadow. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the bottom lash line. And the bottom lash line, in my opinion, has been one of the harder things to master because it can look super smudgy and just muddy and gross, or it can look really nice and blended out. I personally like to use a shading brush for this purpose because I feel like it just covers more space and it doesn't necessarily concentrate it all in one area and make it look super harsh and dark. It gives it a more nice and effortless type of look to it. So that is what I'm going to be using today. However, if you do want it to be like precisely right there, you can use a pencil brush. I'm going to take Booked, and Booked is that reddish brown color that we used, and I'm first going to tap off the excess because I don't want any fallout from this. Tap out the excess, and I'm going to look down, and I'm going to start in the middle, and I like to go out, and you literally lay on top of your eyelashes on the bottom lashes and just move back and forth, go out, and then we're going to come in. and back and forth is the motion. You don't want to go too far down, like you don't want to drag it. You literally just want to place it there and back and forth. Pencil brush is dense and they're really packed together, so it's going to go directly there and only where you go. So it can look like a Sharpie line underneath if you don't go ahead and reblend it out after you apply it. So I like to just kind of completely take out an extra step by just using the brush that is more fluffy. I'm going to take the shade Brownie, tap off the excess, and I'm going to go towards the outer half of my eye and then come in. And I'm also going to go ahead and apply some lower lash eyeliner. Now, you don't have to do this step. This is an additional step. However, I do feel like it's going to bring this look together and make it more cohesive. So I'm going to go ahead and use this black eyeliner. And you're going to place the eyeliner not on the lash line. Remember, we talked about the water line? We're going to go ahead and place that there. Back and forth, back and forth. Just be careful, don't stab yourself in the eye. And take it all the way to that inner tear duct that's on the bottom. And just like that, you have your eye look. Brush away all that excess powder that we had baking underneath our eyes. Remember that fluffy brush that we used to set our entire face? I'm gonna take that with no extra product on it and I'm gonna just go over all of that area that just had that powder, because I, again, feel like this is going to help us prevent any flashbacks. So any areas that you see any powders, just go ahead and go over it. If you feel like the powder is not leaving and it's just leaving that castly look, just go ahead and take a tap inside of your face powder and then brush it away. Alrighty guys, and that was back to the beauty basics of applying your eyeshadows. So we learned today where we should be placing our eyeshadows, what tools we should be using, and how to blend. I hope you guys learned something new today and enjoyed today's tutorial. Tomorrow we will be getting into the finishing touches and finishing out this entire makeup look. So if you haven't, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. That way you do not get left behind. And if you haven't, please make sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I will link all of those down below so that way you can easily click and follow. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace.